to go over how the background stuff works. There are many platforms, just to give you heads up, whichever you want to prefer, but Figma is a designing platform that I prefer over other stuff whenever it comes to a generalized project building or like website development, app development, and whatnot. So let's get started. I will try to answer messages if I can, because sometimes WebEx won't show me the stuff, or we can just have a separate session at the end of the lecture and we can cover that if you have. But feel free to stop me anytime in between if you don't understand or if you don't follow me correctly. So we'll be doing a separate session for a coding part, but for now we,
Jay,
sorry, go
is it
ahead.
possible that I can start recording at this point, or
Oh yeah, for sure.
okay?
So we'll be covering up today, first of all,
This
Figma.
meeting is being recorded.
Perfect. We'll be covering up the Figma session on how Figma works internally as a tool, and then we will have some examples of how designing works. We'll go over the tool itself, and we'll go over some other features of Figma provides, like collaborations and what community does inside of Figma if you join that. Um, just to let you know, you would not need any like a pro version of a Figma at this point. This is a beginner's class, and you can use your Fleming email, or you can even use your personal email to go check into Figma and stuff. What does the Figma actually do? It can do any kind of designing that you are preferring, like designing a card, designing a flyer, poster, banner. You can even go through a high level stuff like app development, web development. It has a building features that most of other tools don't have it. The another good part of Figma is it's a platform which is available across the board for Linux, Windows, Chromebooks, and you can also use it on mobile apps and web development on a web platform. Sorry, my bad. More or less, you can even do a mobile app when you are offline. So it's good features if you want to jot down some notes, or like you just want to take some rough sketch inside your notes, and then just after that revise that and make it look good. It has a capacity where whatever Photoshop, Illustrator, and other tools can do, it does that. There are similar other tools now as well, but Figma was the first to come out with this kind of a platform. But nowadays you have like a Adobe Express, you have a Canva, which does the same job pretty much, but it doesn't have the platform which this has. Like it does not have a offline features, it does only work on some of the platforms. So that's what the Figma is good about. Another super thing about Figma is you can just start anytime, anywhere, and then it's not really difficult to learn, or like you don't really have to go through a separate bunch of lectures to understand how it works. Once you start playing with it, it comes in handy and it just works. There is separate tutorials if you want to watch for a high-end user, like how to do the web development platform and make it exactly how your website is going to look into the Figma, and then start developing it. It really comes handy, especially with the applied projects when you are actually on a platform and a project that you are about to do for a website or a app development. You can just get started. If you guys have used it, you will probably by now recognize how it works. But if you haven't, I would suggest just try to download it as you go along the tutorial, or you can do it afterwards as well. There is a separate course that I have recommendation on the bottom of the presentation, so you can find that later on. Um, to get started, you can, as I said, download on mobile app. You can download on laptop or desktop. You can also go through like a Mac, Windows, whatever you have. Sign up process pretty easy. I'll show you on their website in a moment, but just to go over, you can use Google. As I said, you can use Fleming email. You can use your manual email and a password if you have an additional email addresses. The platform itself provides this kind of view. So it's a web, desktop, and mobile. Now, the good thing to note here would be not all three platform has the same features. So for example, if you are in a mobile app, it would not have all the features that are present in the desktop version of it. And web version was the first that they released, but right away they recognized that web version has limitations, so then they switched over to a desktop versions to make it look like an actual tool where you are going into it. However, when you use a web platform and a desktop platform, it's almost similar. You would not recognize any changes. There are few tweak features which we can go on later on and understand. There is a separate feature platform, like there is a tool sheet which can be used. It's on the web platform. Whenever you go in, it always pops up for you, so it's easy to understand. There are some shortcuts as well provided for you on a desktop and a web version which you can use. We'll go over that in a moment as well.
Professor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, Lovepreet, you want me to continue or have some question?
Yeah, I think he wants you to continue.
Yes, sir. Continue, sir.
Okay, so let me pull up my chat window as well so I can see, make sure I try to answer all of your questions as I go. Okay, so now the main thing comes, which nowadays Canva and other tools have, is a community, which in the beginning of this revolutionary tool was just a Figma that provided. The amazing thing about this is you can use other people's work that is free of cost available to you. So you can use some icons that are pre-made, or you can use templates that are available. Some people also have that full-fledged web development skills uploaded, and you can just start using that right away and just put your stuff in it. It's easy to make stuff when there is a layout already available for you. Or if you are like a nerd and if you want to just start it from scratch yourself, if you are building something for your own, you can just start it layer by layer yourself. I will have an example for both the ways for you so you can understand how you can go over from the base level and build your own templates, or you can just use someone else as well, and then just right away go into start editing your stuff, put the content that you want instead of someone else content. Other than that, you can use charts, flows, workflows, illustrations, which are pre-made, and then you can upload it in Figma. It still recognize most of the work. If you have a PNG file, it cannot be changed into a vector base or Photoshop base, but you can still tweak some changes right away from a PNG or like a JPG or even a photo from your phone. You can probably do it. So it makes very good example. um, when it comes to your applied projects, make sure if you're using a template or if you're using another material, you need to make sure you do a reference to that whenever you're presenting it, because it also comes with probably links and stuff. You need to make sure you review with your sponsors and your mentors before you proceed that way. So just a quick note on that side as well. Next we'll have we'll go, of course, just in a bit. I don't like doing a whole lot of content, but this is a good to know. It The whole Figma is layered into three stuff. So it has its more or less a top horizontal menu, which gives the general files. If you have used like Word presentations, the way it has it, we have the top menu, which is a horizontal, which provides you most of moves, frames, shapes, text, and things like that. As I was saying, it's a collaborative tool. You can have work with multiple people in a same file, and then it will also give you comments, features, and stuff. There is a left menu, which I'll show you in a bit, for layers, assets, and pages. Now, as I was saying, you can make a base layer design to a web-based design. It will have multiple pages. You need to go here and there between the pages. So that's why there is a page, which is third number option. Assets, it's something you can basically use if someone has already used it and you want to just leverage that content or like that particular icon or a shape. Layers, if you guys have previously used any of the tools that are designing based, especially like a Photoshop or Illustrator, which are high end tools, you will see that it's layer based structure. So if you put one thing, you can put another thing on a top to adjust its shape, its layer, and then you can tweak the changes like merging them, grouping them, things like that. It's easy to understand. It makes it go along the way. I'll show that as well. Whereas the right is more or less your main focus because you will be using this for your applied projects. You need to have a design or a prototype which you can make from there, but that will require you to go in more depth. I'm not going to go in depth in today's lecture because it just requires more work around, and for that we have a tutorial available through LinkedIn Learning. And you can do inspects, which we all probably do when we are doing a web development. Just go over a code, update the design part, and then go back and check how it's actually layering out between a website or like web base or a mobile base. And if you have a tablet based website, you want to check that as well. It provides that kind of features inside it. Now, without wasting much time, I'm gonna go have fun with tool. Let me know if you have any questions. Now would be right time before I jump into the tool itself. Okay, let's move on. So I already have a the main with my own account for Figma as an app, as you can see on my screen. However, you can just use your own. I can show you how it will look for if you are going to use your own Figma through a web base for now. So here is Figma, pretty much just a simple website. Whatever I have covered so far in terms of a content, like how it works, it's probably all available here as well. So you can see it right away shows my because I'm logged in, of course, but you can change it to its main screen. So it does the part for icons, web, frameworks. You have a pre-built templates available. So if you are, let's say, working on a website project, you have a bunch of different platforms available or layouts available that you can try to use it. And then after you have a design platform for it, you can then start coding it as well. It does provide a good feature for a CSS. So if you're making your own front-end designs, you can just leverage the CSS and you don't have to write the whole CSS by your own side. You can just use it from here. It does have a mobile templates as well. So it's easy to make and represent when you are going through a presentation in terms of your mentors or like your sponsors. Um, that's the front screen of it. Now going back, you can just download it as I was saying through its web platform and log in. It will be just easy to go over. In terms of a screen, this is the main layout. However, we want to check out the main stuff that I was covering, left menu, right menu, and the top menu. So as you can see, this is one of my own stuff that I have been working on. It's an app that I have made on. Um, it has a screens like you can see on probably top names what it is. Um, the top menu which we want to go over, just a simple menu like files, edit, view, objects, pretty much same stuff that we will have in a Word document or any other normal tool documents. Next up is a cursor or like a move. So as you can see, this is my move cursor, but as soon as I hit a different option, like if you want to scale the screen size, if you want to change it, if you want to see more content. Next is a frame. Now, A good thing to know here will be a frame is a screen which you want to work on. So for example, if I select a frame and if I create a new frame, it's just a square object. But then on the right hand side, you can probably tweaks its width, its height, which I'll go over this side of the menu in a bit, but I want to just show you that this thing that you see here, it's a frame in itself, which you can see in here on the left menu that it says it's a in-app purchase screen. So what happens is when you start making an app, you can select a predefined shape, which is, let's say if you have an iPhone app, you want to make sure you use an iPhone width. It works that way correctly. As you can see, I have used this one for iPhone X, and 19 is just my screen number 19. But you can basically make a shapes like this has a pre-built shapes in it. You can just try to go over in frames. Sections are within the frames. So for example, if I talk about this screen here, it's a frame, but it does have a section in it. How can you know that? You can probably see it on the left of it, but section would be something like a profile update. It's a text, but it does have an arrow. So this is one section inside a frame. Does everyone follow? Is there any questions so far?
No, sir.
I'm guessing no one is going to answer, but I just thought I will question. Slices, um, it's part of, it's just you can dissect into a screen. So if you have a frame and if you want to divide that and in slice it, you can use this tool. Next up, I don't have to explain this. You can probably all know it by the names itself. Um, Next is a pen and a pencil tool. If you have used this tool, like as in a Figma or Photoshop or any other, you will know. However, this is something new in the platform, which Canva and other platforms that are web-based doesn't allow it. So for example, if you have a pen, it basically you can draw it anything and then you can make it a shape of your own. This comes to handy when you are designing your own from the base level, and if you want to do something which you haven't. So this is really a handy tool and you can do whatever you want with the shape. Like you can cross verify it on how it looks. You can put colors inside it. It does have angles. As you can see, you can change the width of it and you can just connect it anywhere you want. This helps you build a shape. Same goes with the pencil, but instead of having an rectangular shapes, you can build like a from a pencil and you can scratch it your own. This comes to handy as well. um Other than that, you have text, which also I don't need to explain, you probably understand by your own. You can just put anything and you can start typing in and it will just work for you. This is the one that's for using the existing components. If you have loaded up some libraries or some additional plugins, now there are plugins. Before this was not a features, but so for example, if you want to use a avatar, you can use that and put it right in here. That way, you don't have to design an avatar. You just use it from somewhere else and put it right in it. Next one is the comment. If you are working on with someone in the project, you can just put a comment here and other people will start seeing it. So it comes handy when you are multiple people working together on stuff. It will be just easy for you to understand and go through it. Now, that's off the top menu, which is pretty much understandable by its own. Now comes the left menu, which is a layers and assets. The pages are here, but I have made it all under one page because I am using a free version. So this is a worth noting that if you are making your own account, irrespective of what email you use, the free version only has a 2 or 3 pages. So try to put everything in one page. Doesn't matter. You can still make it a layers. So when I say layers, that means This, for example, the in-app purchase screen has this many layers inside it. As you can see, when I scroll over, it scrolls over inside the different layers and selections that what I have as a layer. So this, for example, is a bottom nav bar, which as you can see, it's right here. Then I have a purchase, which is like a money currency, and it has its own option. Now, this is a section though. If you didn't follow it at the first time, now is a good way to understand. So this is a frame, this is a section, because if I open it up, you will see there is a lot more inside options, like there is a line, there is a text, there is some another text, and there is a radio button, which is basically a circle in itself. But once you have this screen ready like the way I have, and if you want to just try to develop the code from it, it will get a lot more handy for you to design stuff from here instead of from your brain. Because when you are doing a coding or like developing a website and an app, there is a lot already in your mind to do a coding, and if you don't have a visualized picture on what you want to do in that code, you will probably end up not doing it. So that's why it's really handy when you have a design on your one end and then you are coding off that. I'll show you in a bit in our next slides as well, where we have a coding part covering some of the ideas. Now, this was the first option to understand how sections and frame works, but there is more to it. So there is a assets where you can basically search for whatever you want. I'm not gonna cover the components part because it's itself a big stuff in it, but you can probably explore it. It's really awesome as well. You can see a lot of stuff here. They do have their own tutorials on it. So if you want to do that, this component will allow you to dynamically map between two things. So for example, if you are in this screen, but let's say you have a buy button, which goes to the next screen, which is here. I'm just taking an example. This is not an accurate one, but just as an example, if you click buy, and if this buy, which currently, if you go in layers, you can see it's a section. You can convert it into a component so that you will make it feel that it's actually changing the screen. So when you are in a preview mode, you can click on the buttons even though you haven't done the development part of it. So that's a new feature, but it's in depth, so we cannot cover it in like an hour session or so. We need a more bigger time interval for that, but you can explore it, and it's there also in your LinkedIn learning tutorial that you will be doing after this. So it will be nice to cover that, especially in terms of an applied projects for you guys. So this is how the left layer works: assets, layers, and the pages. Now this whole menu is something you will be using every now and then. I did forgot to mention, so if you are on layers, one of the layers, you will see there is a lock screen and there is an icon screen. So the icon screen is just a symbol saying if you hide, it just goes dim on your screen. You can see pretty much that's gone, but it still stays there in terms of your design. So when you are doing a coding and if you are having some issues for your CSS or for your front end development, this tool comes handy because it will help you understand what went wrong. And you can try to measure your width, you can measure your screen size, things like that. The lock icon, it's nothing, but that means that this layer is not going to move within this frame, which is an in-app frame. So basically I cannot move this layer or like delete this layer from the in-app purchase. But if I do have this same layer in other screen, you can still delete it from there. You can move it from there as well. So this becomes handy when you want to have a fixed layer. Also a worth noting thing, if you are going to use your own, sorry, if you are going to use a template that's a pre-built from a Figma community, all the layers most of the time will be locked. So it's not a rocket science, but you can come in the left menu, just double click on the lock icon and it will unlock for you. But sometimes students start asking why is it not working, that will be the likely reason it's not working, because it's locked up for you. Now, this is a whole left menu. Next up is a right side menu, which is a dynamic menu. It will change based on what section you have selected on the left hand side. So right now, as you can see, I have selected an in-app purchase frame. So that's why I'm getting on the right hand side the design and the prototype. Then it has its frame size, where it's located, what's its width, its angles, it's auto layered if you want. Other than that, you have color schemas. This all pretty much I don't have to make you understand. If you start using it, you will understand it. However, a good thing to note here will be, if I change this to another section, you can see it right away, the right menu gets changed, because its selection of the frame got changed up to a section. So depending on what you are into, your right hand section is going to get changed. Now, for example, if you are in this buy button, which we were talking about before, I'm zooming in so you can understand. By the looks of it, you can see it's a section. However, within the section, there are two things. One is an icon, which is nothing but a lines which are crossly put together, and there is a text. So it's a layer which contains a section which contains two things, one as an icon and second as a text size. Now, currently I'm selecting a text, and you can see on the right hand side, you get a text platform, which indicates you what font you have, what's the size, auto, its alignments, its locations, its color, and you can even put your stocks and effects in it if you want. Now, this is all about just by font. But if I change this to a shape, so if I just go to the next icon, it will remove your text from the left hand side. The reason it does that is there is no text involved, so it doesn't require that part. So basically, this shows you that you are, if you're looking for something specific and if you're not finding it, try to change your layers from the left menu, or you can just use your cursor and just double click on it and it will probably come up for you. So this is another handy thing of the right hand side. um, this will be something that you will use the most when you are in the right hand menu, because you will be doing a lot more changes in terms of colors, or you will be changing fonts, its size, especially when you have like a shape or like a diagram or something. That's when it comes handy. um, could we automate the frames to adjust based on a specific device size is being used on, rather than having a manual configuration in the beginning? Yes, 100% you can use that. It's basically fully responsive, as yeah, that's right. So you can do whatever size you want when you actually create a new page. I didn't create a new one because I already had one, but if you create a one and then first time if you are selecting a frame, it does give you an option in your dynamic menu, which is the right hand side, which frame size you want to use, so that you don't have to have a width and a height selected. It will be automatically suggested to you. But because my page was pre-built, when I click on the frame and then create a new frame, it gives me a fixed 100 by 100 box to you. Good question. If you probably try it on your own, you will be able to get that going quickly. um, Now next thing comes will be, this was the menu side of it. For right hand side, um, the thing I didn't cover at first was the top menu with the right hand side of the part, like the four things that you see on the top, because I wanted to make sure most of you know how the left and the right menu works, because these are the more important ones. um, First icon, which is my name, as you can see, it's just showing up me because I am the only one having access to the page and I'm the only one editing it. But you can change it to whatever way you want. The share is to share with your group members, your team members, if you have some. Next icon is a coding one. So now remember things I was saying. If you want to do CSS using this, you can easily do that. And it's really handy for you to do that when you are making a base layer website and then you are developing a code as well on your own. So you can just, for now, I don't have much selected, so it's popping up everything. But for example, you can select a couple of different options and it will give you CSS. It also lets you select what you want to do. Let me go back. The another one is the present icon. When you have mapped your whole app, which I haven't done in this case, it will let you pick up and present it to someone. So like the way you go through one screen to another, well, my buttons are not linked as you can see, so it's not letting me do anything. But once you link it, you will be able to try to move around with it. So this is basically a good example when you are presenting this to someone else instead of showing the screen itself, because you might have something which you don't want to show. Um, how about the project without GUI? Do we have features for you? Sorry, when you say projects without GUI, can you say what you mean?
Graphical user interface. I mean the
Yeah.
mouse pointer something. In our project, we doesn't have the GUI thing. So how can we proceed for that?
So you mean this cursor itself?
Yes, yes.
So
Whatever.
you,
I mean the indicators, the cursor. The basic thing is cursor.
so I still don't follow you. Can you give an example?
See, we have a project regarding the cybersecurity thing. We need to create a terminal for it. So
Okay.
the terminal should work without GUI. I mean, we are not using mouse anywhere, even though indicators. We need to proceed with the arrows, I guess.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
you mean you want to use all keyboard
Yes.
instead of
Yes.
a mouse, right? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Great question. It does have a feature. Now that feature is not going to work till you don't map the buttons in your design. So for example, if you have a in-app screen, and as I was saying, you want to build this, when you click buy, it should go to the next screen. Once you map that, and afterwards, if you are in a preview mode or like present mode, you can use your keyboard, like click tab to move to the next button, or like use arrow buttons up, down, or like sideways, and then click enter. You will be able to do that still after that. But the thing to note will be it will only work after you build the whole template in itself. And for that as well, there is a plugin if you want to use, which will be your keyboard shortcuts. So search for it. I don't recall the exact names, but you will be able to get that terminal screen going on inside the Figma. And then after that, you can do your actual project if you have a good design in terms of how it's working, what things you are doing inside it. Make sure though that I don't think there is a layout available for terminal. I have never seen it. You might find it online, but I have never seen a pre-made template or like a frame size that's corresponding to the terminal. So it will be good for you to search on, and I can learn from it as well if you come with that.
Sure.
So this
Thank you.
was this was nice question though. It's good to know. So we have covered up the Figma basic, which is the left menu, right menu, and the top menu. And you can design whatever you want in terms of UI. I have just shown an example of an app, but I do have different examples. If you want, I can show it later on if the time allows us. The next, this is called a Fig file for a design. In Figma terms, they call this as a design file. However, they recently launched, I think last end of the year, a file where you can do a flow charts, you can do a tables, you can do a diagram. They are calling this as a fig jam. So this is like one of my own stuff that I'm working on. It's a lot of things to go over, but I'll quickly go over and try to summarize it. So the way the first one which I showed you, is your own design. You can even use the existing template for that, and it's called design file. Now, this is a fig jam file, which basically is the same thing, but this only allows you certain things. So, like a cursor, selection tool, or a hand tool. Hand tool will allow you to move, and the selection tool will allow you to select something. It has a different markers. It has a sticky notes to put in there. This is shapes. So if you want something specific, text, section, same as the previous section which I showed you, a table, a stamp, and then you can use the templates here as well. Now, templates, there are few available because this is a new launch. Not everyone has worked on it, but now community is still growing inside Figma. So you will be having a lot more options, but you can pretty much make an app design here as well if you want, or like a web design as well. For example, I have summarized here a database table. You will understand this bit more if you have a coding background. If you don't, just try to stick with me or ask questions. So this is like a database design that I have put inside Figma because I was mapping my mind on how the website will work. So for example, I have created a table which corresponds to a user information. So it has a user ID, school email, personal email, full name, password, university college name, and university college student number, and their login tokens. Now, next one is their types of the data that we will store in database, string, numbers, emails, whatever we have. Next is the table for the um, course related. So like, let's say this user enters some course information on the website. This is how it's gonna get stored. So it will allow us to put our idea into a FigJam file. And from the FigJam file, then you can work on your app design or like a web design, whichever you have, which will allow you to just not do everything directly into codes, but it will help you visualize your stuff into the Figma and then do it. While talking about database, do you know any tools that we can use for normalization? I am not a good person to ask a database question about, but I would just say use MongoDB or use maybe MySQL. I think that is a tool for itself, but I do not know any particularize in normalization because I haven't really worked on it. So moving on, this was just a table view, but let's say you want to map your diagram on how your app is going to look. So user signs up, they go to login, they have these options, then they are able to do this into a respective pages, things like this. You can put it in your illustrations, and then you can work on the design. Now, this was just an overview example, but I have also made a detailed descriptions. So I have used one of the existing template. This is not like me building the whole stuff. Work smart, not hard, right? So I have used a template which already gave me the legends. I just updated the text inside them. So I have React, Node, MongoDB, their objects, their checkpoints, and then I have made a workflow. So how the diagram works, and this will make more sense when you are actually going to do the next presentation, especially for the coding one. You will understand how this works, but I'm just gonna put it out there for you to understand. So by the color shape, you know this is a React side of the platform. It says it's a user registration method name. So there is like assume there is a code that you already made, which has a name of user registration. By the name, you probably understand what it does. It registers the data. It passes all information to another component. Now the circle one is your node module controller. If you don't understand, the coding part, don't worry, it's going to come handy in a bit more time interval when we go over the code part. So just try to follow in. So it goes to a node module, and then we have a checkpoint. The checkpoint will check if the data validation is correct, like if you have a password constraint that it should have 5 letters, 5 numbers, a special character, things like that. Then you have a different data validations for maybe an email, so no one else enters the wrong email. That stuff happens here, and then if it's invalid, as you can see, it will go back to the React, which is a front end. If it is valid, then it will right away go put the data as per the database format that I had before. So if you remember here, you said user ID, school email, personal email, you have full name, password. These are the same fields that I have used right here for you to understand. So it's ID, school name, full name, password, stuff like that, which will help you just visualize how your data is going to flow, how your front end will work, at which point you will use front end, which point you will use back end. Things like that will help you just make the idea come true in the screen, and then you can actually start working on it. Then again, it will be a checkpoint. It will go check valid, invalid. Then we'll have again another node module, which will try to create a token, and then it will finally go back to a React. I have the same workflow for a login in case someone logs in. You can see there is a lot more notes here, which is not something relevant, but you can use text as well here, which will help you. We have a question sometimes like we need to make some changes on our later basis, so it is easy to make changes even. Yes, for sure. This is a template itself. So I have not done anything. I have just double clicked on it. The existing text got selected. I rewrote with whatever I want. So it's easy to edit the templates in terms of text. But for example, if you have a pre-built template and you want to change the way it's working, that's also easy. Like this arrow here, you don't want it to go here, you want it to go here. That's easy. It's not really a rocket science to do, but you will need to know the basics of how that changes happens. Or there are some constraints, especially when you are making a full-fledged template on your own. There might be a conditions you will put that if there is an invalid data point or checkpoints, then you will have to map your things around so it works differently. So this is something you will understand right away as you start building it, and you will probably right away understand when you do the LinkedIn learning course because it covers this stuff. But make sure there is no templates, like there are not really much templates available for FigJam file like the way you are seeing right now. There is a lot of things available for the design files, like there are built in. So this is all I have done. There are a lot of photos in it because I'm just trying to build this, so it's not yet there, but it's you can easily scale from a template and make your own. You don't have to work really hard. Now if you probably see, this was the home icon that we went over, but we do have a community icon. So if you visit a community, well, this was something I was searching, so it's probably going to show it to you all now. But anyways, so it's a design card. You can probably just go here and search for whatever you want. So for example, like the way you were asking, website layout, it's going to be pre-built. You will probably have a few available templates. So like this, you have, oh, so you see someone has worked on this and you can see there is a lot more. Double click and you will be able to open it up. Um, Make sure you understand how the community works. If you open it here in Figma, it's gonna make a page which you have limited because you have a free account. So you will have a limited access to a pages, and then you will have to create another account. So make sure you don't open it unless you really like the template and you really want to work on it. You can probably check fit the full screen here, like how the template is made. And you see how this is mapped. This is not an actual website, but you can see the person who made this has mapped it. So whenever someone clicks it, you can go through a different options. So you can map it really. You can see whenever you click on it, it's visualizing what are clickable buttons, and then you can filter it. This basically shows you templates are pre-made, so you can use them, but be wise when you are using them because you need to make sure you limit the way you are using. Now, this was a full-fledged template. If you don't want to start there because it's a too much, you can use something like this, which is a smaller version. It won't really have a much for you. It will just show you section by section, and then you can try to understand how to make your own, which will be really helpful when you are new in the platform. So you can see there is no, I'm clicking here, but there is no clickable buttons because whosoever designed it has just designed it purely as a text and a font, images, stuff like that. But you can still use this and you can start right away. Just once you open this in a Figma, I'm just gonna try to show it to you. If I open it, it's gonna get things rendered from whosoever made it, create the layers of it, create the assets and then pages based off that. And then you will get a screen where you will of course have one frame because we just have one screen, but then you can see inside there is a lot more. And then after that, you can right away come here, start changing the way you want. You can change text, you can change layout structures, you can also, you can see like I moved this box and the things behind them are blocked. So you can probably understand why that would be because it's working off the layers. So if the one layer is on top of another one, it's not gonna get visualized. So you can just drag this layer, which I have currently selected, scroll it all the way up and put the first, and you will see it comes out. However, in this case, this image is out of here. So there you go. So you can probably just play around with it for 1 or 2 times and you will start understanding how to work inside it. And that's why it's called user friendly, because you really go through a lot of easiness when you are starting to learn, and then you can right away build your things as well. um, Next step will be if you have any questions. If not, we will be, I think Professor Alvin will be sharing this link to you for LinkedIn Learning, where you can go through a quick course. Can you show how we build that from scratch? It's really confusing what to do in the first look. I can try to show you, however, it's not going to allow me because of the reason that I have too many files. So you come here, new file. You can just select the existing one, or you can just search for a layout if you want. If not, just click new file. It will give